Somewhere in your home right now sits a piece of furniture you built yourself, and you probably think it looks better than it actually does. Not because your eyes are broken, because your brain quietly rewrote the value of that object the moment your hands touched it. A wobbly shelf, slightly crooked, missing one screw you gave up looking for, and somehow you would rather keep it than replace it with something identical, professionally made, and objectively better. You probably assume you like your handmade things because they turned out well. A straightforward judgment about quality, but the real answer is far stranger. Your affection for that shelf has almost nothing to do with how it looks. It has everything to do with the simple, bizarre fact that you were the one who built it. Here is what nobody tells you. In 2011, researchers Michael Norton, Daniel Mochon, and Dan Ariely ran a series of experiments that would eventually give this phenomenon its name. Participants were asked to assemble simple furniture, boxes, and origami figures. Afterward, the researchers asked both the builders and a separate group of strangers to bid on how much these objects were worth. The builders consistently valued their own creations far higher, sometimes more than double what outside observers were willing to pay for the exact same object. Norton and his colleagues called this the IKEA effect, named after the furniture company most famous for making customers do the assembly themselves. Think about that for a second. Two identical shelves can sit side by side, built from the same parts, following the same instructions, and one of them will be worth more to you simply because your hands touched the screws. But why would effort make something more valuable when logically effort should be a cost, not a benefit? Here's where it gets stranger. This is not simply about pride in a job well done. Psychologist Leon Festinger's earlier work on cognitive dissonance offers a clue. Festinger showed that when people invest effort into something, their minds work hard afterward to justify that effort because admitting the effort was wasted creates uncomfortable psychological tension. If you spent 40 minutes wrestling with an Allen wrench and hidden dowels, your brain has two options. Either the shelf is worth that struggle, or the struggle was pointless. Most brains quite reliably choose to believe the shelf was worth it. This means the shelf did not become more valuable because of anything that happened to the shelf. It became more valuable because of what happened inside your head while you were building it. Your brain was not evaluating the furniture. It was resolving its own discomfort, and it used the furniture as the tool to do it. There's a third piece to this puzzle, and it explains why this effect runs even deeper than simple justification. Researchers studying the related endowment effect, first described by economist Richard Thaler, found that people consistently overvalue things simply because they own them, independent of effort entirely. In one famous experiment, participants given a coffee mug demanded roughly twice as much money to sell it as other participants were willing to pay to buy the identical mug. Ownership alone inflates value. Now combine that baseline bias with the added weight of physical effort, and you get something psychologists describe as a compounding effect. The IKEA effect is not just ownership, it is ownership plus labor, each one stacking on top of the other until a slightly crooked shelf becomes, in your mind, nearly irreplaceable. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. This bias toward effort-justified value likely was not a psychological accident. Anthropologists studying tool making in small-scale and hunter-gatherer societies have long noted that the objects people crafted by hand, spears, baskets, woven cloth, carried social as well as practical value. Evolutionary psychologists studying costly signaling theory argue that visible investment of time and effort into an object served as a reliable signal, both to the maker and to their community of skill, patience, and commitment. A tool a person built themselves was not just functional. It represented hours of their life that could have been spent elsewhere, and that investment made the object worth defending, worth valuing, worth being proud of. Your ancestors did not have factories. Nearly everything they owned, they or someone in their close circle had personally shaped with their own hands. A brain that did not attach extra value to self-made objects would have been a brain indifferent to the literal hours of survival critical labor poured into every tool, weapon, and shelter it depended on. The IKEA effect, in other words, may be an ancient valuation system built for a world where almost everything was handmade, now firing off in a modern world full of flat-packed furniture and instruction manuals with too few pictures. Modern manufacturing did not remove this ancient wiring. It just gave companies a clever way to activate it deliberately. So what actually happens when you build something yourself? Cognitive dissonance quietly convinces your brain that the effort must have been worth it, reshaping how you judge the finished result. The endowment effect adds a second layer, inflating the value of anything you possess, regardless of how it got there. And underneath both of those, an ancient evolutionary signal still treats visible personal effort as proof that an object deserves to be valued, defended, and kept. Three separate psychological systems quietly stacking their effects on top of a single wobbly shelf until the finished object feels less like furniture and more like a small physical piece of you. Understanding this changes how you look at every self-assembled object in your home and maybe every effortful project you have ever poured yourself into. That irrational attachment to the imperfect thing you built is not a mistake in your judgment. It is a very old, very reliable psychological reflex, one your ancestors depended on to value the things that kept them alive. Now quietly firing every time you finish tightening the last screw. Somewhere in your home right now sits a piece of furniture you built yourself, slightly crooked, not quite what the picture on the box promised. The strange truth is that the crookedness was never really the problem. It was proof of exactly how much of you went into making it.